Hi, I'm Dr. K.Nevelsteen, and I'm going to run you through how to get started with IPSME. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use example Objective-C command line interface minimum. We're going to grab the repository URL, and then we're going to clone the repository. In the repository itself, we have to then init the submodules and also update them. Now we can open up our project in Objective-C and it should compile. We'll see here that in the main we print running, and then we subscribe a IPSME handler to the messaging environment, and then we enter an infinite loop, run loop. When a message comes in our handler, then we print some debug output, and then if the message is a string, we get the string handler is then used to handle the message. And the string handler, it checks to see if the string is a discovery message. If not, then the message is returned false, and the message is dropped. And if it is a discovery message, an announcement gets returned. So you basically have three different states for handlers. You have the accept, where the message has been accepted as known, and then the processing has completed correctly, so then everything is fine. You have the state where the message is accepted, it is known, but the processing fails. In that sense, you could have an exception being thrown. And it is important that no exceptions are being let out toward the IPSME library, so we catch all exceptions in the base handler. And then we have a third state, which is that the message is not accepted and unknown, and so therefore we return false, and the message is just basically dropped in the IPSME handler. So then we can go ahead and run and test our application. But to test this application, we're going to have to be able to send messages to our environment. So for that, we're going to use a component that we install via the store of stores. By running the app, then at the end, we have the pub nsdnc application we can install. If we leave the store of stores open and then run our application, then we'll see messages from the store of stores already appearing in our application. We're not going to do that. We're going to test via our component. If we then change to the directory, the .ioi directory in the root, then we see that all components from the store of stores are installed here. And then in the bin directory, the pub tool has been symlinked here. So we can then run pub nsdnc 1, which causes instead of 0. So we could also say 0, but we're going to say 1 here. And this says that we're going to start listening for messages after we have sent messages. And then we're going to say the message discovery. With our application running, then we said we are going to hit discovery, and then we'll see that our message has been received by the base IPSME handler. It has been deemed a string and then sent to the string handler. In the string handler, it is recognized as a discovery message, and an announcement message has been published. That same announcement message is also received by the base handler and then deemed as a string and handled by the string handler, but the announcement message is not recognized, and then it returns false, causing the base handler to drop the message. So drop. The pub message, in the pub tool, we can see that we received the message announcement. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start a web project to communicate with. And that is here. It's called example.js web browser minimum. We're going to take the repository URL. And then we're going to git clone the repo. Here we don't have any submodules to initialize, so we can go ahead and open up the project in Visual Code. Then in Visual Code, we can install via npm. These commands are in the package JSON. These scripts, we have build, serve, and clean. So we're going to do npm run build as well. So if we look at the code, we basically have the same as the command line interface in Objective-C. We have an IPSME handler, which is sent to the IPSME library to handle messages. If a message is a string, then that message is sent to the string handler. It is then parsed to see if it's JSON. If it's a JSON message, it is sent to the JSON handler. And then if the messages has a UUID which starts with the number which is less than 8, then that message is accepted. Otherwise, that message is returned false, and the message is dropped by the IPSME base handler. We have a function that allows a button to be pushed, and every time the button is pushed, we push out a message to the local messaging environment with a UUID, and here's the publish command. And the reflector I'll explain in a second. So if we then do npm run serve, we can surf to localhost 8080. And if we open up the developer console, then every time I push the button, we can see that a message is pushed to the local messaging environment. But if we check here that the message has not been received by our command line tool in Objective-C. We have two messaging environments that are not connected to each other. So we have the messaging environment of the operating system, we have the messaging environment of the web, and we're going to bind these two to each other. So we're going to do that with another tool. We are going to again go back to the store of stores. And we're going to install a component called Reflector WebSocket for Mac. With that component installed, then we have a component that is a Reflector server, which takes in messages from a WebSocket and publishes it to the local messaging environment for Mac OS. Then if we look in our project here, that is the code here is a reflector, which takes messages from our local web messaging environment and reflects those messages from the web environment to the WebSocket, which then gets passed on further. So now if we go back to the website and if we reload, then we have an announcement that has been made, which shows that this initialization has happened, with the reflector is working properly. Now if we push the button, we should see that messages have arrived in our command line tool. So how do we go further with this? So the idea is basically that if you want to do, if you have a website or if you have an application that runs native on Mac OS, then what you can do is you can fill in your protocol in IPSME publish, and then you can receive messages in your handler, and that protocol can be anything. So of course there's limitations to which protocols might be efficient. Like for example, it might not be super efficient for streaming purposes, but the idea is here for interoperability, not for performance. Nothing also inhibits that you also negotiate via IPSME with the other participant to then also have a side channel for streaming as well as a channel for interoperability. I think that's the end of our tutorial. That's it for now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.